If you like our content, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get alerts when we introduce new videos.
So in this video, I'm going to talk about the RUCKUS IoT evaluation kit. We're going to go through basic setup of the evaluation kit, also known as the EVK. We're going to set up virtual smart zone, the IoT controller. We're going to do a software upgrade to the IoT controller, and we're going to also add an IoT device. So the evaluation kit includes a Intel NUC computer. Comes preloaded with an image that contains Ubuntu, the Ubuntu operating system, as well as two virtual machines running under KVM. One is our virtual smart zone, the other is our IoT controller. It also has the MySQL database running, as well as a ipconfigure VMS. Along with the Intel NUC, you get a RUCKUS ICX switch, at least one PoE camera, a access point, and a bundle of Zigbee sensors. What I've done is, if you just plug in the Intel NUC and you connect a monitor, keyboard, and mouse, you'll get a screen similar to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into Ubuntu on the Intel NUC, and you should get a screen like this. So the first thing I like to do is open up a terminal session and type ifconfig. And here we can see the IP address of bridge 0, which is the IP address of the NUC, is 192.168.88.194. We're going to make a note of that because we're going to need that later as we go through this video. The next thing I mentioned is we've got two virtual machines running. One is the virtual smart zone and the other is our IoT controller. So I'm going to use the virch command line to verify that these IoT controllers are there and they're running. And you could see that these two controllers are running. One is the IoT controller and the other is virtual smart zone. So the next thing I'm going to do is you can bring up the virtual machine manager GUI. There's some interesting things that you could take a look at here. I'm going to select the IoT controller and I'm going to look at the details. And you could see things like the number of CPUs assigned to this virtual machine, the memory, boot options. So in this case, we always select the checkbox to start the virtual machine when the system is booted up. If we go on to NIC, you can see that we are communicating through bridge 0, and the KVM virtual machine manager has assigned a MAC address of 52.54.00.91.83B2. So you may want to make a note of that, because the next thing we need to do is we need to determine now the IP addresses of the virtual machines running. As I mentioned just a minute ago, is we know the IP address of the NUC, that's 192.168.88.194. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a program called Nmap, and this is the command line that I'm using. What it does is it scans that entire subnet and it's looking for all the IP addresses and the MAC addresses. So here's our list, and just scroll up here a minute. You can see that it displays the manufacturer assigned to that MAC address. It's looking at the OUI. So the ones that we are interested in is the ones named QEMU virtual NIC. So those are the IP addresses assigned to our two virtual machines. What we can do actually is, you can see I have two here. That's the MAC address. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back the virtual machine manager, as I just showed you a little bit ago, and go to the connection details again under NIC, and you could see for the IoT controller, it has a MAC address 83B2 at the end there. So looking over here, 83B2, that corresponds to IP address 192.168.88.67. I like to make a note of these things, so I'm going to write that down. 192.168.88.67. So that's the IoT controller IP address. And then what we could do is we could also look at this one, which is the virtual smart zone We can look at connection details here, go over to the NIC, and its MAC address at the end there is 1131. So that is this one right here, and that corresponds to an IP address of 192.168.88.68. So now we have all three IP addresses. We have the IP address of the NUC, which is 192.168.88.194. We have the IP address of the IoT, which is 192.168.88.67. And we have the IP address of Virtual Smart Zone, which is 192.168.88.68. At this point, what we can do actually is we can close all these windows down. If you like, you could disconnect the monitor and keyboard and mouse from the NUC. And in the next step, we're going to connect to the NUC from either a laptop computer or another computer on our network. Back on my desktop computer, this computer is on the same network as my Intel NUC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal session to the Intel NUC. So I'm going to SSH into the Intel NUC. To the IP address 192.168.88.194. So there's my terminal session. So basically now I have a command line interface into the Intel NUC. I could do some of the same commands like I did earlier. So again, I could display the IoT controller and Virtual Smart Zone controller running. We're connected to the NUC just fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open a browser to the Virtual Smart Zone IoT controller. So it is 192.168.88.68, and it is port number 8443. And here we are at the setup wizard for Virtual Smart Zone. So I'm just going to configure Virtual Smart Zone, put in some DNS numbers here. So this is going to take a while. Okay, so this is Virtual Smart Zone. I'm not going to go through all the details here because there's other videos that'll go into detail on how to set up Virtual Smart Zone. But basically, I'm going to complete this wizard, and I'm going to onboard a AP onto Virtual Smart Zone. I've completed running through the installation wizard for Virtual Smart Zone, and I'll just show you here. Here's Virtual Smart Zone. I've onboarded one AP. It's an R510. I've created a wireless LAN called EVK1, and the next step now will be to get the IoT controller VM up and running. So this is the IP address, 192.168.88.67. So this is the initialization wizard. So I'm just going to go through this, change the time zone. Here we go, America, New York. I'm going to hit next, put in my password, accept the license, and now the IoT controller is going to be initialized. Okay, my IoT controller has finished initialization now. So I'm going to go to that IP address, and this is the login for the IoT controller. And I have onboarded the same AP that I onboarded to Virtual Smart Zone. So what I have now is I have the IoT controller with that AP, and if I go to 192.168.88.68, port number 8443, this is Virtual Smart Zone, as I showed you a little bit ago. So there's the AP, Virtual Smart Zone. That's what I have right now. So I've got the IoT controller, I've got Virtual Smart Zone, and what I want to do now is I want to add a IoT device onto this AP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this AP into scan mode, and I have a Samsung door sensor that I'm just going to press the button, get it into pairing mode, and there it goes. It found the door sensor. So I'm going to name that door 01 and accept that. Stop scanning. And so there's my door sensor onboarded onto the IoT controller. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade my IoT controller. Right now I'm running 1.5.1.0.21, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade it to 1.5.1.1. So I've just gone to admin and versions and patches, and I'm going to upload the 1.5.11 image. Here we go. And we have to start with 1.5.1.1.17. So I'm going to choose that file and upload that. So that's going to take a little bit. Okay, so that uploaded successfully. So I'm going to select that and set that image. And the IoT controller is going to reboot. Okay, so that's rebooted. I'm going to log in again. And you can see we're at 151.1.17. So I need to upload one more image now. And this is 151.1.22. So I'm going to do that. That image has been uploaded. So now I'm going to set that. The IoT controller is going to reboot again. Okay, so we have successfully graded to 1.5.11. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just refresh this page. It's still starting. Okay, so it's completed the boot up. I'm going to log back into the IoT controller now. It's going to make me change the password here. And I'm going to enter a new password now. Update the password. Sign in again. And there we are. We've successfully graded the IoT controller now to 151. It's actually 151.1.22. It'll take a minute for the AP to come back online here. So it's back online. Still have my door sensor, my IoT door sensor. We've successfully gone through the installation of the EVK. We've set up Virtual Smart Zone. We've set up the IoT controller, and we've onboarded one IoT device to door sensor, and we've also upgraded the IoT controller.